Well, good morning and welcome to this week's episode of College Coffee Talk. Pearl and Andy Lockwood from Lockwood College Prep. Hello, Pearl.
Hello, Andy. Hi,
And your
everybody.
Bright red, is that a political statement with a DNC?
Is it a flex against the DNC?
I'm asking you, was there?
Some may interpret it that way. Some may not.
And would that interpretation be correct, or are you just leaving it up to interpretation? All right.
The latter.
Okay. Well, we've got a good show today because we've got some important stuff to talk about. We've got the updates to the FAFSApocalypse, the latest, not greatest changes, or I guess breaking news about what's in store for this year's financial aid applicants and recipients this year, meaning 2024, 2025. And what?
Do you mean no, don't you mean 25, 26?
Both.
Okay.
I mean both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Should we start over?
No, but we are actively.
We're going to be talking about financial aid options for affluent families. But before we get into that, please join us in a synchronized sip of your morning beverage. We're both drinking macchiatos today.
Switching things up a little for the 25-26 season. You see what I did there?
No. 1, 2, 3.
Cheers.
Enjoy. You know, last week when you were out on assignment, I asked people to share, which I'll do today. Tell us what you're drinking. And someone wrote back with the most complicated but delicious sounding, cold brew, 24-hour.
Nitro probably was thrown in there. No?
I'm not sure, but it was intimidating. Yeah.
Neat.
So, but I did ask. So I'm asking again, what are you drinking? And
let us know
where are you coming in from? Where are you logging in from? So let me just see who we have here. I want you to attempt to do that this week. We are now live on our page. Got 11 people joining us. I see Betsy and Alan Vacnine, longtime clients. Joanna Belson, new client. Homemade coffee in Los Angeles.
Good morning, Joanna, up early.
Yeah, she's up very early in LA. Now, when you say homemade, does that mean that you actually grew the beans? And how homemade is homemade? Just curious.
How deep do you go?
And Betsy is hydrating with water. And
probably the best choice.
Brave school counselor Michelle Greenleaf is watching, despite some of my some interpret as negative comments towards school counselors and guidance counselors. And Jay Singh. All right, good morning. All right, cool. All right, Pearl. Talk to us about whatever your mystery topic is, unless that should be second.
It's going to be second.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So every time there is news about the FAFSA that comes out, it's about, here's the latest crappy development in the FAFSApocalypse.
Exactly.
So what is actually the latest and not greatest news? And then we'll talk about what parents and kids can do about it.
Okay, the latest and the greatest is kind of more of the same, and the net is don't get too affixed to something that you're being told as written in stone necessarily when it comes to financial aid by the Department of Education nowadays, because the Department of Education rolled out a new version of the FAFSA last year, and which caused significant delay. And then once it was finally available, the substantive information that was transferred was not actually available to the colleges. So there were serious delays in financial aid packages being awarded. But the net is, for as many problems as there were, which there were, the year came to an end. Financial packages were issued and people are matriculated and it's all working out. They've gotten their bursar bill, and to the extent that things needed to be sorted out where there were many errors, like, for example, you could have a need eligible family all of a sudden showing they had $400,000 in income. I mean, there were mistakes across the board. But once they were sorted out between the student's family and the school, you're in a basically normal place, historically speaking.
However,
Unfortunately,
many mistakes are still not sorted out.
So many mistakes are still not sorted out, and they still have not fixed the underlying problem, so much so that the normal timeline for the FAFSA rollout is October 1st, is again being delayed, and we're told now December 1st, like we were last year with the first time we were told about the delay, which ended up being a further delay and a further delay, and nothing was available until the new year. And even then, it was very scarce and problematic.
I have a point though.
Let's hear it.
Okay. I don't know if you remember me saying probably 3 or 4 times over the last few weeks, I don't understand how the FAFSA, which is very short, can have all these problems, whereas the CSS profile, which is like 200 and something, maybe 300 questions compared to 50 questions for the FAFSA, how that never has had issues like this.
I know exactly why.
They brought in the head of the CSS profile as a consultant for the FAFSA a few weeks ago.
Well, I guess they had to pay for that.
Well, yeah,
advice.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe, probably. So now I do think that it'll be a better rollout. They have someone from the private sector
that's giving them advice on the rollout. Well, that would be great. I think I've understood that it's been somewhat archaic web design that
well,
the
there was 2
government
things, right?
is
This is what was so dumb.
hamstrung by.
There were 2 things that they updated. They only had to update one. What they had to update was the new regulations, and that could have been fine. That did not require a platform update, a coding update.
Not.
But they took the opportunity, because they had what they perceived as momentum and maybe budget, or they opened the window was open in Congress to update the coding platform, which apparently has been around since the 80s and not updated. And that's what caused the problem. It wasn't so much the changes in the rules, it was the opportunity that they took, which I kind of understand, but then they totally blew it. And that's why they fired, they didn't fire them, because they didn't never fire anyone.
Reassigned.
Reassigned Richard
Not
Cordray.
held accountable.
Yeah, they took him off the project. But they brought in someone from, the real world to oversee things. And he says there'll be some sort of soft launch in October.
A beta launch.
Yeah, but I bet it's going to be better.
Yeah, hopefully. But the net of it again is we got to roll with it. And this is life also. That's the bigger picture lesson. Like, you've got to roll with the fact that things don't happen as they should. The should island again, that does not actually exist. So just it gets sorted out. Hang in there. Don't let it throw you. But expect this year to be hairy and wiry a little bit like last year, because that's what we're being told to expect.
But get a handle on your deadlines, get everything ready early, file early.
Right.
And Pearl's going to be filing early for all of our clients, and follow up, make sure they have everything.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You always have to, you never want to say, but your deadline and your rollout, whatever. You have to take care of your side of the street perfectly in this process. You never want the other side the opportunity to say, but you were late. But you didn't give us, whatever it is. Anyway.
Very cool. So hello to Laura, who's also drinking water. Joanne is drinking water in LA to save money. I'm sorry, coffee, but she doesn't spend more than $1 for coffee. Nice. Very frugal.
Thanks. Yeah.
And let's see, Patrick, Fanindra, that's probably pretty close, hopefully. Fuzia, Susan, Brad, Aurel, Marcelo. Great. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we talk about merit aid for affluent families?
I have one thing, because it's really a timely topic.
Let her rip.
In the middle of August, so and it's come to me because in the last couple of weeks I had the opportunity to take our daughter, who's now a returning sophomore in college, and one of her best friends who's an entering freshman, and I have one of my closest friends from college, son just started school yesterday, and it refreshed my recollection to a concept and a conversation that is often not had, and because it's often not had, the effects of this are unfortunately sometimes so much worse because it's not talked about. And
so let's talk about it.
What that is specifically is the notion of, obviously, because we're on this and we're all here because we're college planning and there's so many moving parts and we're talking about the sheer overwhelm of it and trying to clarify that for all of you as we go. But in that effort, there's also all this buildup and the notion of college is the best 4 years of your life, and you're going to meet your best friends for your life in college. And it is just this golden opportunity that, of course, we all know is so expensive. And so to get it right is so important. And now you've graduated, you've been congratulated, you had your prom, you had your parties, and now you're going.
Yeah.
And this is getting real.
I felt so much pressure when you said that. I can't imagine what the kids feel.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So now you have your student who is leaving everything that has ever made them feel secure outside of what's within them. Hopefully that's really where it is. But they're leaving their family, their friends, their home, everything that is familiar, everything that their social construct, whatever it is. And now they've been plopped into a place that the messaging has been, you're going to find your bestest friends, and this is the best time of your life, and blah, 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 blah. And when you get there, that is not how the student feels, because they've just left everything that's familiar and da, 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 da. And the notion of that transition time in the beginning is what's not talked about. And then what happens is when students don't feel like, I've met the best friends of my life, and this is the greatest thing ever, and I'm so happy, I'm bubbling over with happiness.
In the first
3 days, 3 weeks, even 3 months.
Yeah.
When that feeling, which honestly, who feels like that the minute they touch down to college? Some do, and some look like they do. That's the other thing.
On social media?
On social media, even if you're sitting by yourself at that one meal and you look over to a table and you see 6 people eating together who seem to be forever friends, that can weigh on a person, especially when they're away from their home and their family, everything that has ever made them feel whole. So I'm discussing it so that if you have a college-bound student or one who's going now or shortly or just started, and it might be how they're feeling, get in touch with that. Bring an awareness to that, hey, you might be feeling this way. It will pass. You will get through this. You got this. Like, be words of encouragement. Be supportive. And they may feel like the bottom's falling out. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Because I don't feel the way everyone said I'm going to feel right now. And then you're just, yet. You have to use, some curative language and some encouraging words of, you've got this. And also for a lot of kids, they haven't had any new experience of having to rely on themselves and their social skills to branch out, because maybe they made all these friends in kindergarten, or they've been just shoved together, forever.
I remember last year when you told our daughter Sammy, who's a freshman, you're like, look, I don't even remember who my orientation friends were.
Right.
But my real friends, I'm still in touch with, were people I met sophomore year,
second semester, right?
Yeah.
Later on, like,
I mean, you still might be friendly with people from orientation, but you've got, just because it doesn't happen right away, it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen.
Right. And the other reality is it takes time to get to know people and to develop relationships and friendships. I always say to my kids, it takes 4 seasons to really know somebody, to really, everyone puts their best face on in the beginning, and that may or may not be actually how and who they are. So
unfortunately, she interpreted that as going to the 4 Seasons Hotel, which was very expensive, but you meant the calendar seasons.
You did.
Yeah.
I did.
Words matter.
So anyway, so I just wanted to sort of point out that is a really underreported topic, the transition period of the student who, is finally going to their, all this work, all this effort, all this hype to the place. And then when they touch down there, immediately, they don't feel that way. It feels like the bottom may have fallen out. Okay. And then what? So just get in front of that, or just be mindful of it.
All right. That was important. That's a big, big topic. So again, if you're just joining us, this is College Coffee Talk. We talk about all things college, getting in, staying in, paying for college, and then transitioning, I guess, to college. So that was very important.
You want to set them up for success, because one begets the other.
That was a nice surprise that you threw at me. So if you have questions or you want to comment, this is a great opportunity to share that information, because we're all going through the same stuff. When we have 3 kids in college this year, so We've been through some of this. We have some that's yet to come. We get it also. All right, let's switch gears, shall we?
Yes.
All right. So today's question, what financial aid options are there for affluent families? A lot of people rule themselves out. They think they're not going to qualify for any aid. And this is usually because they've heard this or they've read this or they've, I don't know, they've heard part urban legends, soft whispers that financial aid is never for people like you, or you're not going to qualify because Boston College never gives money, or something like that. And the reality is a lot of people rule themselves out just automatically or reflexively because they think they won't qualify, but sometimes they do. And we have had families who have made more than $300,000 who have gotten need-based aid. And we've also seen families who make $50,000 to $70,000 receive nothing. So how can that be? Well, that's going to be discussed right now, partially focusing on affluent families. So we have two types of families in our practice. We have a fair amount of families who can just write the check for college, maybe several times over, and they don't have to sweat it. And then we have people who need the money, either they're low income or middle class income, and they think they're not going to possibly be able to get anything. It's funny. For example, just this past weekend, I was meeting with a prospective client who said very clearly to me, and he's a financial guy. He's pretty affluent. He has a practice with very high net worth individuals, and he said very clearly, he goes, "Look, I'm not here about getting money for college. I want to give my son the edge, whatever it takes to help him get in. We've never been through this before. I know a lot of other people, hired you, and they said you're the best, but so it's not really about the money." And I said, "Great." And then I told him a little story about a client a few years ago who you'll know. I'm not going to say his name. And he said to me, when I had a similar conversation about his daughter, he said, "Look, the reason that I work so hard," and by the way, this guy had I think he had two companies in the Inc. 500, or maybe one was in the Inc. 500 fastest growing, and the other one was the Inc. 5000, but alpha male with a few different entrepreneurial ventures. And he said, "This is why I work so hard, so that I can afford to send my kids to the best schools and give them the best opportunities possible." And we have a lot of clients who are like that. A few months later, when the offers started coming in, he was on the phone. He's like, "Lachlan, you wouldn't believe that Taylor got a $30,000. And I'm like, "See, I told you, it is about the money. It's nice to get these scholarships." So that's stunned him. So just a couple of statistics. First of all, at any given college, roughly 30% of the families pay full price, 25 to 30%. The vast majority are getting some sort of subsidy. The average discount is 56.1% from a private college. There's a lot of discounting going on. Paying full price is a choice, not an option. The deals are out there. Colleges bribe applicants to come. That is part of their business model. The average gap between the full price and the net price for affluent families is $18,000, meaning the average affluent family who makes $250,000 or more gets $18,000. That's the median. So there's a lot of people getting more than that at colleges. So the question really is, where should you apply? How do you find this money? Because that's what it's all about. It's about what pond you fish in. And colleges are highly aware of this. It's more than that. They're engineering this because they have enrollment consultants, who will run algorithms to calculate, okay, in order to get this family from Greenwich to come here, as opposed to enrolling in UConn, you need to offer them $18,000 or words to that effect. And what's interesting is the psychology behind this, because many of the expensive private colleges who have pretty substantial endowments, let's say hypothetically they charge $60,000 for tuition and they offer a $30,000 merit scholarship. It's much better psychologically for a family to say, yeah, she got a $30,000 scholarship, than if she were charged only $30,000 in tuition. Because a lot of these colleges, they play this game. They increase their prices, but they increase their discounting also. So it's called like the Chivas Regal effect, where in order to value something, you have to pay a lot for it. But then you get the bragging rights to say, well, she got a 50% ride. My daughter's so smart.
Exactly.
That's a big part of it.
Right.
So where do you look? So it's mostly private colleges that have the high sticker prices, but will discount. The average tuition discount at state universities across the country is still about 50%. So it's not much less. But the biggest discounts tend to come from private colleges. So that's the first step is understanding which schools you should be looking at primarily. And then the second step, which gets overlooked a lot, is how your child stacks up compared to the competition. So if you're in the top 20%, if you're of the cohort that they're competing against in terms of GPA, in terms of SAT or ACT scores, even in today's test optional environment, for merit scholarship from colleges, test scores count. So it's harder, not impossible. It's harder to get a merit scholarship from a school if you don't submit your scores. I have seen it happen a lot, but it's just hard. So if your child is in that top 20% compared to the other competitors at a private school that gives merit aid, then you're much more likely to be successful in getting a discount of 25%, 33%, 50%, or more. I will say this last comment. It's not the elite colleges that we're talking about, although there are exceptions, which we've mentioned before. So Ivy League and near Ivy colleges say they don't give merit, they only give need. But I'll talk about our favorite example. A few years ago, we had a client who was basically an admissions officer's
Don't say it.
I can say wet dream.
Dream.
Okay.
Come on, we're a classy outfit here.
Fine. Nocturnal. Okay. And so I spent about, I don't know, 6-7 months reassuring the parents who own a dental practice in New York City. Don't worry, if they don't admit Alex, I don't know who they're going to admit. Right? This guy is Harvard bound. So he gets in, and then they got zero financial aid. And they're like, wow, I'm glad he got in. Is there anything we can do? So we found something that we were able to use to negotiate, I think, $7,000. And that was a huge windfall because, again, a dentist in New York City does not show financial need. Then, for some reason, well,
at a school that doesn't award merit.
Then not for some reason in terms of getting it. He got into a couple other Ivies, including Brown, including Princeton. And for some reason, Princeton University looked at the exact same financial aid applications that Pearl prepared, and they came back with an offer of like almost $30,000, which none of us could figure out. And I remember his mom being like angry. She's like, how could they give that and Harvard gives nothing? I said, well, that's actually very good for us. Why don't we show that offer to Harvard and see what they say? So they actually, I think, had a face-to-face, which I don't always recommend. But they sat down in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with their admissions officer and said, listen, we got this other offer from Princeton. You're my top choice school, though. Alex has been thinking about Harvard since he was basically in utero. I mean, there's pictures of him and a baby with a Harvard sweatshirt. Talk about pressure, right?
Yeah.
And
hope he liked it. We know he did.
And then the way that his mom described it was, the admissions officer looks at the offer and he said something like, yeah, Harvard doesn't match offers. But let's see what we can do, right?
Okay.
So there's all this drama. So there were a few rounds, which I'll spare you the description of, but after 3 rounds of negotiating, Harvard ended up giving $54,000 from zero,
right,
at a school that doesn't offer need-based aid
each year.
Right. So everything we're talking about is sort of, this is how it works most of the time, and here are formulas, and this is what money counts against you, and this is what doesn't. If you make this much, you're not going to qualify. But when it comes to push versus shove, it really depends on how badly a college wants you as an applicant, and then they might bend over backwards to throw you a few extra $1,000. So the bottom line here is, if you're not going to qualify for need-based aid, number one, that's okay, because there's actually more merit aid out there than need-based. And number two, if you're strategic about this, particularly if you apply to generous schools that are generous to you and a few that compete with each other, then you might have greater results than you ever could have imagined. So I hope that helps. For more tips like these, you definitely should subscribe so you don't miss out on anything like this. And some of you may be watching this. This is a Facebook Live broadcast, but some of you may be watching this on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever the new one is. I don't know. Truth Social. So subscribe there, and you'll get more like this. Okay. Any questions that came in? We got 5 minutes left here. This is your last call for questions.
I'm going to make a comment to Eric. Thank you very much.
Eric, Samuel, Joyce. Let's call everyone out. Cecilia. What's that show? Rainbow, whatever.
Romper Room.
I see Cell. KS.
And I see
Julietta. Madsen. Marsha. And Grayson. Hi, Eric. Rick Darvis.
We know that guy.
Rick the genius. Sorry, the legend, the ancient legend.
So it just harkening back to the adjusting to the freshman year of college. What difference does the freshman orientation make? That will happen a week or two prior to the arrival of older students. It makes a big difference. And along with go to orientation, my best advice to as a maybe a cure or staving off of the
transition problems,
exactly, thank you. Show up. Tell your student to show up for everything, for every meal, for every organized thing that every kid may feel a little stupid about showing up for. This icebreaker event, this thing, whatever, meal for friends on blah, 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 whatever it is.
I hated those.
You do. And you feel like maybe a dork for going or feeling like you need to go, want to go. Show up. Everyone's doing it. And the kids who show up and have that structure in their early days stave off some of that anxiety and depression that you could fall prey to, and it breaks up the day from this amorphic, oh my God, when are classes gonna start? Because I don't know if friends and who am I gonna eat with at my next meal and all that. You have a schedule. You're gonna throw it into your own calendar. You're gonna tell your students this, and tell your kid you're gonna bring the body and the mind, and the rest of it will follow. But you got to go and show up and remind them, because this is often overlooked, this is a tremendous investment in an opportunity. And both of those things need to be in the forefront of the student's mind when they embark on this, along with those feelings. But they also need to, because this is their step into their adult life, bring themselves with everything that they got to this point with, and do the things that make them a little uncomfortable at this moment, which probably includes showing up. But that is my best advice for hastening the transition.
Yeah, get off your ass, get out of the dorm room.
You're not different. You don't feel different. Well, everybody feels like this, even if they don't look like it.
Exactly. There's going to be some people who don't feel like this, but they're either weird or they're masking it. And you've got to force yourself to do it, even if it's uncomfortable. That's what college is about.
It's a quicker route to adjustment.
There was a great essay I read this summer about someone who did something similar in their private high school, where there's an orientation and all that. And the whole essay is about her kind of stepping out of her shell and putting herself out there, being a kid who felt like she was kind of overlooked. And then she ran for office, and then she got named to this position and all that. And she said, now I'm going to be the one who's asking those awkward icebreaker questions like, what's your favorite dinosaur? They're so stupid.
Right.
But I remember the one that I had to do at Wesleyan, which was, we didn't have, I'm sure we had a normal, regular education, orientation, but then we had the one it was called Caliga, and it was the Lesbian Gay Alliance, something. So we all had to pretend that we were at one of those meetings. So we each had to go around and be like, hi, I'm Fred, and I'm a gay man. Hi, I'm Andy, and I'm a gay, gay freshman or something. I was like, that is the most uncomfortable. I know, we talk about uncomfortable, right?
Hello, Wesleyan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, no, that's probably every college, right?
Yes, that's fine.
I'm gay, and I hate Israel. No, sorry. So that was the most uncomfortable thing. But what it led to, may I? But what it led to was then my hall, which was maybe 11 people. We all went out to the really crappy cafeteria, and we kind of talked about how awkward that was.
Right, exactly. And you bonded over it.
Well, then one guy from Switzerland, Big Gene, was like, "Hey, let's go around and do that again." And I'm like, "No, I mean, I did it once, you know." So he's like, "No, I think it'd be a good idea." So anyway, we went around. And he was like, "And by the way, I'm Gene, and I'm gay, and I'm really gay." So then that's how we like introduced himself to and then he spent like the whole semester kind of like torturing me. He's like, "My friends are coming to get you," you know. So it was like a funny thing, and he was a great guy, but it was a incredibly awkward thing that I'm glad I went through because it was just painful at the time.
Yeah.
But I see the results. I don't think anyone watching this is going to go through something like that, although it's possible, right? Maybe they already have. I doubt it.
Today's version.
But yeah, but whatever it is, there's always value in it, and when you get to college, you like Pearl said, it's an investment. You want to extract the value from it. That is not how kids think. Frankly, it's probably not how a lot of parents think, unless you're self-employed.
You have 8 semesters there.
But give it a shot and force yourself out of that comfort zone. Get out of that dorm room. All right. Well, thanks for watching. We will be back with College Coffee Talk next Monday, as always, live at 10 a.m. And please share this with your friends and throw in your comments. We will answer them when we're off the air to the best of our ability. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.